This podcast is for anyone tired of sitting on the couch watching fucking Netflix. For anyone who wants to know how to break the 9-to-5 slave life. For anyone who wants to be better tomorrow than they are today. I want to help you learn how to break the cycle. This is your story, and you have to write it. Come on in. We're just getting started. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Getting Started podcast. I'm your host, as always, Sean Bussard. Very, very excited to bring you on an amazing guest today, the one and only Marshal Gillen. What's up, Marshall? What's going on, brother?
Oh, what's going on, man? Dude, Sean, I'm so excited to be here, brother. I haven't done many podcast recordings in a while. I've been very isolated and closed off, just going through some like healing stuff and I feel like I'm just getting started again. So the timing of this is, it's funny because it's like, oh, the Getting Started podcast, like, let's go. It's interesting. Yeah, man. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Hey, man, glad to have you here. I actually heard about you through a mutual acquaintance of ours, Zachary Babcock. I had him on the show not too long ago, and he was the one that really first introduced me to you. And then, of course, we've connected through social media, and, man, you feel like a kindred soul to me. So I wanted to have you on here for sure.
Well, first off, I appreciate that, brother. I know that there's a lot of BS on social media. So, you know, for somebody like a leader like you to say that, to be able to filter through it, man, it means a lot. I really appreciate that. An interesting story about Zach Babcock is I've been following him on social media for probably about 2.5 years. And I have a brand called Top Paid Speaker. We do like events and stuff. But I had an event in January of 2019, and I needed a guest speaker. Like I needed somebody, like my speaker that was supposed to show up couldn't make it. And so I reached out to Zach on a whim. And I was like, yo, bro, is there any way that you could come be the expert speaker at my boot camp? And he's like, yeah, no problem. Flew him in, this and that. And he, at the time, was going through, and this is interesting for the listeners, he was going through a point in his life where he had, for those of you guys who don't know his story, he was in prison, went back to prison, got out, and went into entrepreneurship. And so when I met Zach and he came to my event to speak, he had just started the Underdog podcast, and it was doing well for himself. But he was trying to do digital marketing. And at the time, he had just come back from like Costa Rica or Dominican Republic, one of those places, for a big-time mastermind with some big-time marketers. And basically what those big-time marketers told Zach is they're like, what in the fuck are you doing trying to sell people digital marketing? You haven't made any money online. And so when Zach showed up to my event, I want to say Zach was down, but he was kind of like, I'm a fraud, I'm fucking fake, like, being really hard on himself. And I sat there the very first morning of our boot camp, and I went to Zach and I was like, dude, don't you have like a top 20 podcast or something? He's like, yeah. And I was like, bro, why don't you freaking teach people how to launch their podcast? And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I never thought of that. And so like that event, we kind of framed it around like, yo, Zach, why don't you do an expert talk to these speakers on how to launch their own podcast? And then for the listeners, the reason this is important is because, look, I know that every now and then there's these situations and circumstances that come up in life that make us feel like we're a fraud or like we're a loser or like we're never going to be able to make it. But you never know. It's like getting around people like Sean, like getting around like-minded people. That's why the power of association is so important, because Zach showed up. That's all he did. He didn't feel like showing up necessarily, and he probably stepped into a situation where he felt like a fraud. But because he showed up, we were able to create a reflection of each other. And now, I mean, shit, he built it to a 6-figure business in the first like 8 months after that, and now multi-6 figures, and now into 2020. And I think that, his clients have been absolutely crushing it. And so, not this is about Zach or anything like that. I just thought it was an interesting story for people, wanting to get started. Like, look, you just show up in life and you just take the actions. Like, you never know what's going to happen, man. And I think that's one of the coolest things I've seen about you, Sean, like since connecting with you and watching your content. Like, dude, you're smart, bro. Like, you know what you're talking about. It's really refreshing, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, man. And like I said, that's one of the things that, I've always been one of those to show up. But it took me a long time to understand you had to not only just show up, but take that action to go along with it. That's really what's going to push you forward and get you ahead and make you start progressing forward. And you may not even see it at first, because I'm going to tell you, when I first, just like Zach, just like a lot of people that get into this entrepreneur space,
when I first jumped into it, man, I was going to be a digital marketer. Like I was going to make, $10,000 a day, and I was going to live the laptop lifestyle and sit on a beach in Costa Rica and this, that. I found out real fucking quick, man, not my jam at all.
Yeah.
And I just
it's
kind of,
interesting. Go ahead.
I just kind of, I floundered for a while, man. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kept sticking with the mentorship and sticking with the different programs that I was getting into and just healing myself and learning at the same time. And one thing that I learned that's led me into coaching myself is as you heal, when you start clearing out all that old stuff and all that bullshit that you've had inside you, it makes it easier to be able to help other people and to share that. Like my main forte is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which for anybody that hasn't heard of it at this point, basically if you watch Tony Robbins, that's NLP and a screenshot for you right there. Now, the thing about it is though, is like, as I started getting rid of all this crap, I started watching these old emotions pop up in other people. And it was like, hey, I can show you something real quick to help you with that. Little by little, I started doing it. And when the mentors and coaches that I had at that time, as I started doing this and working through it, I noticed about, I guess, a couple of months into actually helping other people, when I decided to take this step, the guy that I was working with, who is a digital marketer, I was like, dude, finally you fucking get it. Finally you see it. Like, I've seen this since literally the second week you were with me. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But I could not tell you that, which is incredible. And I think that's the beauty of networking and collaborating and working and masterminding with everybody that we get into our circles is, while we may not see it in ourselves, somebody else does see it. And whether it's a coach, a friend, a family member, whatever, it's their obligation, their job, so to speak, to let you figure that out yourself, but to help you figure that out. And not to tell you, because if they tell you, you're going to be like, I don't know, maybe, whatever. And then you might start going through the motions. You might step into it a little bit, but you're never going to go all in because it's not the thing that you are called to do. It's someone else telling you, here, try this.
Right. It's interesting you say that. I think, hearing you talk about that is, it's a big reason why I had this big burnout phase in 2019. Like I thought I was, in position to scale my business to, multi 7 figures. And in 2019, I just burnt out. I mean, like completely. I shut down my whole business. I stopped speaking. And I really just I flamed out hardcore. And it's interesting to hear you say that because, as a type of men that we are, and it's not exclusive to men, but like as the type of people that we are, it's like, I know for me, so much of my self-worth was based on my performance because I grew up feeling I was unworthy. And so it was like, I would go out there as a motivational speaker the last 4 years, and I'm trying to preach to everybody how to change their life, what to do. And I'm like, literally, I'm telling you step by step exactly how to do it. So why aren't other people getting the same results? Like the people that say they want it. And I think that frustration started to boil up in me because so much ego was still like, yo, man, like, why can't I transform you? Oh, you're not trying hard enough. You're not my kind of people. And I just really started going and burning that stuff down. But it wasn't until I took a step back, like you were just saying, and I took a look at like my yard, right? And I was like, damn, I got a bunch of dead shrubs out there. And I've been a lazy ass. I've been lazy, man. And it's like, that morning just hit you and you're just kind of a little slightly pissed off, a little motivated about something, and the sun's shining. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fucking trim those bushes. And I did. And I started trimming everything in my yard. And it was like, all of a sudden it was 2020. The world's falling apart. And people are like, how's 2020 been for you? I'm like, dude, it's literally been the best year of my life. People are like, and it's just because it's like what you said. I stopped trying to get everybody to do something because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? And then my ego used to say, yeah, but I can make it thirsty, which isn't true. Like you might be able to make it thirsty, but you still can't make it drink. Sometimes it's not smart enough, And so I think that's just so important. I know one of the biggest transformations for me was taking that step back, at the age of 35 and finally getting rid of all of the dead stuff and not just the stuff that's easy. Like going to the gym for me and lifting weights, that's easy. Going for a run, the hardest thing ever. But what I've been finding is that when I start doing more of the hard stuff, especially like emotionally and mentally, bro, I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Why
especially
do guys have a hard time doing that?
a lot of it's just the limiting beliefs, man. They got belief systems around,
Yeah.
working out. They got belief systems around, the way they have to work in order to make money. They have belief systems around the way money comes to them, and that was one of my big things was growing up. Like my dad was a machinist for 50 plus years. My mom worked pretty much either in factories or in like the service industry, waiting tables and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up with this belief that you have to.
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
Swallowed wrong. To all the podcast listeners, I'm sorry. I just swallowed my coffee wrong. I'm sorry, Sean, to interrupt you. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, it's totally cool, man. Everybody that's watching this on YouTube later is going to have to figure out why your whole camera's blurred out.
There we go. Wow, weird. So your mom was a factory worker and dad was a machinist. She was service industry part-time. And then what?
So I grew up with all these thoughts, in order to make money, you had to work hard. You had to break your back. You had to constantly be, people pleasing, and you had to constantly be, always ready to, be on call 24/7, or if they call you, you got to go in or whatever. And it wasn't until I really started kind of letting this stuff go and like understanding, well, other people out there doing this. Yeah. I want to do this. Yeah. If they can do it, why the hell can't I do it? And that was a real big shift.
Yeah. How did you make that though? I mean, how did you, I guess not that, how did you even become aware of that though? I mean, cause that's the sticking point, right? For most guys or most people in general.
It is. That's where it comes down to letting go of those old emotional beliefs and those old belief systems. When you first start letting it go anyways, what I found was it's really fucking scary and it's really confusing because you don't know what's going on. This is all new territory, and most people are more scared of the unknown, which is why you always hear the phrase, the familiar devil is always better than the unknown one. Most people are scared to do that work. Most people, when they get into that empty blank space, are lost and they're confused, and it's slowly where I had gotten myself to.
Right. What were you doing before coaching?
Man, I've been doing electrical work in the construction industry for almost the last decade. And before that, dude, I bounced around from restaurant to factory to retail to bar to whatever, man. It didn't matter. I was that typical.
The blueprint that we pick up from our parents.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely, and it's because we're programmed that way from a very, very early age, man. Our formative years are from like 0 to 7. Everything we pick up from 0 to 7, we're a sponge, and we're going to hang on to most of that the majority of our lives.
Yeah.
Most people do hit a turning point, typically in their mid to late teens, early 20s, where they start seeking it for themselves, seeking out truth, awareness, self-awareness mostly. And some people, when they get to that point, can kind of shrug off the old programming and the old belief systems and install new stuff. Some people for the good, some people it's for the bad. I've seen people that grew up in very well-off families, very well respected among their communities and stuff, and they're dope fiends hanging out in a jail now. Yeah. I've seen people come from the dope house, the trap house, and they're running, 6-figure businesses now.
Yeah.
So it's like, it really all determines on your perspective, and I don't want to say frame of mind because that doesn't really capture what I want, but it's definitely your perspective on life in general and the ability to step back and have that 40,000 foot view.
Don't you think that perspective comes from our parents though? I mean, like the perspectives the lenses we see through?
It does. Everything actually, all our experiences that we go through life develops our perspective. And our perspective ends up becoming our perception on the world around us. Therefore, and now we're going to get a little bit wibbly wobbly here, that's when you start getting into quantum physics and quantum mechanics. Everything is changing all the time. Nothing is set in stone until you observe it, until you put that consciousness to it that sets it in stone. Mm-hmm. I forget who it was that said it. But quantum physics is basically what you see in front of you is real. Everything else is a constant blur of motion and energy swirling around that does not settle, take form, shape, sound, or any of that until you observe it either with your eyes, your ears, something. Yeah. Only your observations create reality.
Yeah, when I learned that, it literally changed my life. Like last year, well, I guess in 2019, when I shut my business down, I thought I was dying of cancer. First off, I've always been super healthy. I eat incredibly healthy. Like I'm good to go. And like I had this gnarly pain in my stomach, and I started webbing, DNing, Googling shit.
No.
But then I found these lumps all over my body, and I was like, I got out of the shower, like I think it was February of 2019. I was like drying myself off, and I felt a lump in my abdomen. I started feeling around. I started finding more of them. To save the suspense, it turns out there's something called lipomas, which are just fatty little tissues. But I never felt them before, and I was getting lean. Like I was getting even leaner than I had been in a while. And longer story longer, I thought I was dying of cancer. I didn't want to tell anybody because I was at a point in my life where I was realizing that you can truly manifest anything you want. Didn't know about quantum physics or any of that shit. I just was like, oh my God, I've been listening to like Jack Canfield and stuff and talking about Jim Rohn and thoughts become things. I'm like, this shit's happening with my, and it freaked me out. And so I think what I did is I actually manifested physical illness, which, I mean, I know that, not to get too deep to listeners, but, physical manifestation is the last place that the energy manifests. But it's like, so what I did is research, because like a stupid, typical man, I was like, I'm not going to go to the doctor. I'm going to try to heal it on my own. And so I started learning about like nutrition and plant-based diets and more stuff. And then what I found out, I was like, oh, physics is the study of matter. But then they made something called quantum physics, because it turns out that physical matter doesn't even exist. And I was like, how is that possible? How does physical matter not exist? And that led me down the rabbit hole of like, oh, quantum physics is the study of everything that happens inside of that. And I was like, and then when I found the double slit experiment, which you just talked about, how the experiment that literally proves that thoughts become things, I was like, oh my God. And for some guys, it's just, you kind of like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to say I'm hard headed, but I need some proof, I need some proof, just a little bit. And so when I learned that, it was like, I mean, I grew up on a farm, right? I live in Montana in the mountains, right? I'm like, it was a little woo woo, but it was enough of the substance that I needed to be like, oh, I get it. Thoughts become things. This is real. Science proves it. Let's get into the woo woo and figure it out, and the other thing you were saying about getting a coach earlier, about you being a coach, I'm like, if you're listening to this and you don't have a coach, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Or a mentor, finding a mentor, like somebody, because it's like when you don't know what you don't know, like when you are stuck in an employee mindset because your parents were machinist or factory worker or, service industry, which I've done all those jobs. I've been a millwright. I've worked in factories, plastic bucket factories, I've done every job under the sun because I was taught the same thing, Sean. You don't need money to be happy. You have to work night and day and break your back to earn it. Or we're not like those people over there, and not like in a bad way. And it's just like all this crazy programming, but it's like, how do you know what you don't know until you get somebody to reflect to you? They go, oh yeah, bro, did you know that like you can make your own money? Hey, yo, bro, did you know that you can go out and find someone who's already done what you want to do and like, try to invest some time, money, and or energy into them? Like, it's crazy the simple things that we don't know.
It really is, man. And that was one of the things that really kind of struck me, for my whole life, I've always been told, you got to play the hand you're dealt. Well, if you weren't born into money, you're not going to have that kind of money. Play the hand you're dealt. Little did I know that, yeah, you're dealt a hand when you're born. You are dealt a hand of cards that you have to play for a certain amount of time. However, there comes a time when you can fold and get a new hand.
Yep.
And if you do it enough times, you can stack the deck, basically counting your own cards, and deal yourself your own hand to make with it what you want. You want to win the game, true. You can win the game. If you want to just go halfway, you can go halfway.
Yeah. That's the programming though for a lot of men, is that like, for me, my work ethic was driven by ego, and I didn't understand it. I was like, well, I don't even have a lot of money and I may not do those things, but I'll work you any day and I'll beat your ass. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's like you start to root down into pride around the fact that, oh yeah, like, well, I'm a hard blue collar worker. I was just at home in my hometown of Sterling, Illinois, which is, 15,000 people. It was a town in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. It was built on a steel mill, one of the largest steel mills in the world. So like that kind of town. And I was just back home and I'm like, everybody, I mean, not people I specifically know, most of the people I specifically know, but just the town in general. You go to the gas station, you go to the store. I'm like, everybody is so fucking mad everybody's so angry. Everybody is such a critic and a pessimist, and like the energy breeds. And I'm like, look, I get it, but people start to, because of what we were taught, they start to hate what they want but can't have. And then it's like, oh, well, I can't have that, so I don't need it, and I don't need that anyways. And it's like, I just watch these people go through this perpetual cycle that continue just to hold themselves down. And I'm like, it's so sad. And so, you know, to hear that you have a show called Getting Started Podcast, which if you guys are listening, you haven't subscribed yet, you should definitely go subscribe, and you should probably leave a 5-star review. But it's just so cool because it's like, look, you started, and I'm getting started, and Zach got started. And, you know, it's like every little thing, it's like all you got to do is just get started and find people who can help support you. Doesn't mean getting it right. I mean, I know, you know, I built my whole brand on like, hey, yo, like, I'm not perfect. I fuck up a lot, but come with me if you want to try some stuff. We're all in this together, you know, and that relates with people. So, man, I wish everybody would find a mentor or coach. It changed my life. But I didn't know what a mentor was until 32. I'll be 36 in October. So it wasn't until I was 32 where I even knew, like, really truly what a mentor actually meant.
Crazy absolutely, times. Man. It's kind of cool that you say that, because I was just a year older than that when I first really understood what a mentor was. Because, you know, growing up, you get role models. Everybody has a role model growing up. But, and I don't know if this is just me or if it was just the place that I'm from or just the era that I'm from, because I was, you know, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, which awesome time. Don't get me wrong.
Heck yeah, man.
But like my role models were like Kurt Cobain, Hunter S. Thompson, all Brad these rock stars, and Brad Knoll, dude, like all these rock stars and these great, huge personas that if you look back, man, they're all dead now. They're fucking dead. Yep. And why are they dead? Because they had a gift. They shared it with the world. The world ate it up and spit it back out, and they destroyed themselves.
Yeah.
I still love those role models that I had, especially Hunter S. Thompson. If you've never heard of Hunter Thompson, dude, dig in. Dude, oh my God.
The Rum Diaries is one of my favorite books of all time.
Oh, dude, Rum Diaries, and I'm still a huge fan of Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. That was one of my favorites. Man. It was also the book that got me the hell away from politics. It was one of the best moves I ever made.
Yeah.
But
no doubt.
You know, and I can look back and see why I love these guys and why they were role models. But I don't think they were. And yes, I guess you could put them into that same category as mentors, because I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from the writings they left, from the music they left, from the teachings that they left behind, because that's what even all celebrities leave behind, teachings. Any celebrity that, you know, has any substance about them leaves teachings behind of some sort of variety.
They don't have substance, though. I mean, you know, still a teaching point for somebody.
That's true.
Like,
that's true.
Do that.
Touche. But when I started, I guess I was, you know, like I said, 32, 33, I really started looking at mentorship in general, because I had a close personal friend of mine who got into the entrepreneurship game. And he went into, you know, Forex trading, and he went into digital marketing, Instagram marketing, and now he's into property management, and he's doing very, very fucking well for himself. And it's because he made that shift, you know, before I did, that he's several levels ahead of me now. And that's cool. You know, I've learned that I'm not judging. I'm not jealous. None of that. He's on his game. I'm on my game. And they're two separate games. But that was what inspired me to really look at, because he had the mentorship of his family or his role models that I didn't have. Okay, well, if that's where he started, let me try looking over there and see what I can find. And that led me into finding the mentors and the coaches that I did. And I
love it.
Extremely grateful that I did, because I was at a point where, like, I was married, had 4 kids. I was working, you know, we'll call it the 9 to 5 for the sake of, you know, going to the difficulties of it. But, you know, I was pulling in, you know, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, working overtime on the weekends. Sometimes, you know, especially in construction, you know, we're getting called in, you know, 10, 11 o'clock at night, because we got to pour, you know, 50-foot concrete slab, and we got to have all the pipe in there and all the wire in there. Dude, there's no time for family. There's no time to enjoy life. And I got to the point where I'd lost my passion. I lost my purpose, and I was just going through the motions. And I battled mental health issues and depression and anxiety when I was a teenager. So I understood the signs, and I knew what to look for. And even though I knew what to look for, I missed missed it all until just one day it kind of clicked. I was like, can't keep doing this anymore.
Wow.
Started looking for mentors, found a couple here and there. Maybe not some of the best ones right off the start, but enough to get me started, to get me to take that first step, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You know that. Amen. I know that. And once you take that first step and you really get started, dude, the next one becomes easier and easier and easier and easier, even if you have no fucking clue what you're doing. Because I would tell you, I had no fucking clue. I still don't know what I'm doing half the time. But I know I'm doing something different. And as long as I'm doing something different that's going to move me forward, cool. If I do something different and it fails and I fall flat on my face and I fuck it all up, great. I know not to do that again.
Yeah, I think the thing that's like so important about that story that you just shared that I hope the listeners get is like there's a decision point in the very beginning where like you have an opportunity to be better or to be bitter. And it's like most people look at that friend and they go, well, fuck him. Like he must be doing blah. Like, for me, for example, I mean, this is something I've had to deal with over the last 3 years, hardcore, and you probably too, but a lot of my friends from my past, because I was, partier and all this and that. I mean, even the other day, this is somebody I know very closely. She reached out to me and she's like, you think you're this and that. I'm so sick and tired of you telling people how to live their life. Like, if you guys watch my content, you can tell from me here, like, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Sometimes I get a little riled up, but for the most part. And so it's just interesting because, like, she used that as an opportunity to see the reflection of herself where she wasn't happy in her own life. And so I know that's very cliche. People are like, well, when people are mean to you, it's not personal, but it really isn't. Like, I know who I am, and I have hundreds of testimonials of people whose lives I've changed. But when she sees that, even though she knows me, she can't deal with the demons within herself because she's not at a point where she's ready to choose the unknown compared to what she's had. And so, like, I think the important thing about your story that I hope listeners and viewers too don't look over is that turning point when you have an opportunity to go, you know what, I don't know everything, and my life is not where I want it to be. So instead of getting bitter, I'm going to actually get better, and I'm going to celebrate this guy's success because he's my friend. So, like, you know what, bro, good for you, man. Also, how did you do that? Or just like something that's slightly that. And so, like, you can just kind of win over it because to you, it's just the thing. But it's like, dude, you've got to change. You've got to choose to be better in those moments.
Right. I want to hold you up right there because, man, you hit on something right there that was key factor. And I think I did a video about this the other day. People are scared to ask questions. People are scared to want to know more anymore. And you can blame that on 5 million different things you can blame it on anymore, especially with it being 2020. And we've gotten all this, truth and awakening coming out there that people just aren't ready for.
No.
But being able to ask, hey, how did you do that? How can I do that? How can I incorporate that into what I'm doing to get me moving forward? People are scared to ask that question. And even I myself was scared to ask it until finally one day when I did, and somebody was like, oh, well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The worst they can say is no, right? It's just like, I'm sure you can remember being back in high school and there's this girl that you want to ask out, but you're so scared. She's like, the hottest girl at school and this, that, and the other. And you're just like, man, I want to go for it. But, man, she could say no. I'm going to feel heartbroken. I'm going to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Same situation. The worst that can happen is they say, no, I'm not telling you shit.
Right.
Most of the time, especially for people who are on that higher level of thinking, who have, risen above the bitterness and the anger and just the bullshit, they're going to share it with you because they honestly want to see people succeed. They want to see humans as a species leveling up. There was a time in the past that we all call the Dark Ages where it was frowned upon and violently punished to be smarter, to be more educated, to be progressing forward. And it held humankind back for what, like, I think it set us back like 400 or 500 years. And it was all done within the span of like 100 years, maybe, or 200 years. I forget. But we've reached a point now where I feel the majority of humankind really wants to see each other succeed.
Mm-hmm.
The issue I think we run into is, it's like you pointed out earlier, you went back to your hometown, there was just all that negative energy that, just bred in upon itself. Same kind of situation, man. I'm from a little podunk town here in Tennessee. It's called Lyles, man. It's like you can't even find it on a map hardly. But there's that that closed-mindedness, that negative energy, that
Right.
just that, all right, well, this is what we've got, so this is what we are. And it just, over the years, it cycles back in on itself. It cycles back in on itself. It just, and it gets stronger every time it does it, because the old generation breeds it to the new generation, breeds it to the new generation. But when you look into them, you'll find a few shining lights here and there. And the thing I think that, I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. The majority of the time, those shining lights recognize it and they get out. They remove themselves from that situation so that they can shine brighter, so they can be, more and better. And I don't know if you're familiar with the hero's tale or the hero's journey. There comes a point where once we get past that, that bifurcation point, we get past that point of no return where there's no going back for us, it really kind of becomes our responsibility to return to that old world, to return to that old style, and let our light really encompass it all and outshine it all. And I don't feel there's enough people that go back to do that. I myself have still kept myself as far away as I can because I'm not comfortable really going back to that. And at this point in the game, I don't think I really know anybody that's there anyways. My old circle of friends is either in jail or dead or gone. They've gotten out and aren't turning back. But I think, I'm glad you touched on that, because a lot of us are a product of our environments. Yeah. And our environments influence a lot of our experiences and influences a lot of the way we pace ourselves for the future. And it's sad to say, it's an unfortunate thing, but it happens all over America. It happens all over the world. Yeah. And that's why you see, it's why I'm glad to see, especially the town I'm from, man. And I'm sure you've seen it, in Illinois. I used to live in Illinois, just outside of Chicago, a little town called Yorkville. There are 5 million gas stations now that are owned by Indians. Dude, the town I'm from hates that. They hate it with a passion. Dude, I'm proud of that shit. Yeah. Like, to see them go, because I've seen what the living conditions in India are like. I've like, not firsthand, but like, of all the people I've met that were Indian, I worked for the Indian people before. Their living conditions, for the most part, are absolutely shit. Their environments are absolute shit. And they have busted their ass and worked to get where they're at. And yeah, okay, they're running a gas station. Dude, that's living like a fucking king to them. And they're proud of that. And I'm glad that they're proud of it.
Indian Americans are the second highest earning race in all of America. You know what I mean? Like, so they're doing something right. I mean, so for people that want to talk about oppression or how America's holding people back, it's like, give me a break. Like, give me a break, man. There's plenty. Like, so I guess this is just kind of like a touch on something for me that's, I guess, personal, because I've been living in San Diego for the last 13 years, and I just moved to Montana. And I where I'm at in Montana, it's red. Like, it's red here, and that's cool. I just happened to move to a cabin in the mountains, and this area is red, which I guess kind of aligns with a little bit of who I am, but I'm still a little liberal too, Point being is that here in Montana, they hate people from California, because what their experience has been the last couple of years in this area is that rich people from California are moving here, buying up all the land and making it too expensive for them to then buy land, for Montanians to buy land. And so I have California plates on my Jeep still. And I mean, literally people are holler at the window. I'll be out camping, fishing. People drive by the road. Go home, tourists, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, dude, I'm a resident. My car is still plated, but I'm a Montana resident. I pay taxes here. And it's upsetting, because it's like the same thing that I came from in Illinois. And it's all across the world. It's not unique to Midwest or the South or anything like that. But it's like people playing the fucking victim. I'm like, you know what, Montana? You want to know what, Flathead Valley? There's so much opportunity here, because nobody is doing anything, that if you look outside, like, you could start a food truck. You could do this. You could do that. Like, you could do so many damn things here. But you want to complain about the guy from California come here, take it. Like, shut the fuck up. Get your ass to work and go solve a problem, because there's plenty for everything to be had. And so it's like, not the race thing of Indians, but it's just like, I hate when people do that. My hometown people do that too. And it's like, I don't know, man. Again, it's just programming. You don't know what you don't know. Like you said earlier, like, I really truly believe that people are good at heart and they want good things for other people, but we're just so scarred and hurt that like I always talk about anger as a proactive emotion. It's a proactive emotion to people who have been hurt in the past. It's like if you were hurt in the past and you're fearful of that and your subconscious doesn't want that. And so it creates anger through triggers to keep you safe from having to feel that. And it's just like, damn, if people just were like stopped, because I dealt with, obviously, a lot of mental health and, depression issues and anxiety and stuff. It's like if people just stop and ask for help, you're like, yo, man, like, I'm just fucked up right now. Like, have you ever felt like that? But it's tough. And so I think that I just I'm so grateful for what guys and girls too, like you and I, get to do, starting a podcast like this, being a coach, whatever. If one person's watching or 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people are watching, it's like, dude, if we can just pass that idea to one person, it's like a flashlight. They see you flash into space and it just keeps going, right? Forever, till infinity the light does. Same thing with our energy. I'm like, I just take it. I know, again, it's cliche, but it's like waking up one day at a time and going, okay, how can I become the best version of myself so I have the best energy so I can do a podcast or I can do a group training or I can go speak on stage or whatever, and just give that transfer a little bit more. Because it's easy to sit here and complain about what everybody else is doing. Like, oh, fuck those guys. They're all bitter. But I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing about it? How are you helping those people like you used to be? And you nailed it on the head earlier. And so, what a blessing to be here and have these conversations. I mean, you just had breakfast with your family. I went and did my morning routine, and like, we're going to get into our work days, and like, what are we talking about? And it's literally just because we got started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Crazy.
It's all it takes, man. Like I said, it goes back to the journey of 1,000 miles because of a single step. And
come on,
taking that step is the scariest thing you'll ever do. Man, once that first step's over, dude, the rest just starts falling into place. Now, I'm not going to say, you hear a lot of people talk about, well, you just got lucky. You just got lucky. No, I didn't get lucky. I just kept fucking going. I didn't stop.
Got it. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people give up. A lot of people give up and they just like, oh, it's too hard. I can't do it. It's too hard. I can't do it.
Yeah. It is.
What would happen if you did? What would happen if for one time you would not give up?
Yeah. One time.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Yeah, I think, it's, well, I talk about this a lot too, but lack of clarity, right? I think it's like most people can't get through fear because they don't even know what they want, because they've been so programmed to like, oh, well, how am I ever going to get that? I better not even think about it. And it's like, man, no, it's like you said, it's like thoughts become things. It's like, no, bro, like literally, if you didn't have to worry about how, if the how, don't worry about that. Let's just pretend that 5 years from now, you get to live your dream life. What does that actually look like? And it's like if enough people just ask themselves that simple question and didn't worry about how, they're just like, this is what it looks like. And I go, great. Now, who out there in the world is living that kind of life, doing those kinds of things? First off, start following those people. Do they have books? Read them. Do they have videos? Watch them. Do they have podcasts? Subscribe to that. Tune into that. And it's like collect mentors. I collect mentors like anybody collects anything else. And I don't learn everything from one mentor. And there's not one mentor who I want to be like. I want to be Marshal Gillen. That's who I am. But it's like being able to take these different lessons from all these mentors. That's all you need, man. Just taking those stuff, start to read, learn, start to shape your mind. And like you just said, bro, I mean, yeah, it's scary, but like you start to get comfortable with discomfort. I know for me, I love discomfort now because I know that it's growth. Mm-hmm. And in a sick way, like I love that shit, which is why I love to, train and push my body, because I love it. When I'm dying on the side of a mountain, 10,000 feet up, and I'm like, I still got more to go. I'm like, dude, for me personally, like that's helped me become comfortable with discomfort. And so everything else in my life, I'm like, okay, well, that's really uncomfortable. What's on the other side of that? Growth, word, let's go. And it's just such a common misconception that people, fear never goes away. God, I hope it doesn't, because it's like, it's one of the emotions on the spectrum of life that we get to experience. Mm-hmm. And it's raw. And that shit is like exhilarating. Like it's not fun always. It's exhilarating. You get on the other side, man, what a payoff.
Oh yeah, man. It's just like, yesterday, I actually walked in and turned in my uniforms to the job, the company I was working for. And in the past, I can go ahead and tell you, dude, like my anxiety would be kicking in, because I wasn't, walking in, dropping my shirts and sending them a text. It was like, I was going in there and telling them, hey, look, I'm done, guys. I'm moving on. greener pastures, all that stuff. Normally the anxiety would kick in. I'd be like, oh God, they're gonna flip out on me. They're gonna do that winning yesterday. I was just like, man, just look, thanks for the opportunities. I'm grateful for every chance y'all have given me. And it's time for me to move on. And I've got, bigger opportunities and greener pastures ahead of me. And I hope that, we can part on mutual terms and possibly work together in the future sometime. And like, I think the thing that really blew me away was it was respected. Like that, the decision and that choice was respected by the guys I was telling. They were just like, oh, okay,
because you respected them. Because you respected them enough to give them the truth. And like, that's all people, people want love and acceptance, but really we want respect. It's like, that's like the caveat is like, everybody just wants to feel respected, because and so I think it's such a big thing because that's something a lot of guys would shy away from, right? To find a way to squirm out of it or to kind of like not have to face that. You just walk in there, with your BDE, with your big dick energy, like, yo, what's up? I'm out of here. Going to green pastures. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything you taught me. I'm so grateful. I'm not better than you. Like nothing like that. I just need to take this opportunity. And I think just that facing that truth, like you said, people are scared to be judged or they're not going to like me or they're going to hate, they're going to talk shit about me. And it's like, you know what? If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. And 9 times out of 10, when you meet life with that kind of honesty and vulnerability, people are going to be like, you know what, bro? Good luck. I'm rooting for you. You need something, let me know. Like, and I just think it's like such a huge thing. And I guess I keep talking to men because I just know what it's like to deal with that. And we're both men, but I'm just like, gosh, if you can find that in you to just to have enough respect for yourself, to just be honest with how you're really feeling. It's so much transformation, man.
Absolutely, man. And, like you said, it applies to both men and women, and especially in this day and age, things are shifting, man. We watched the whole paradigm shift for all of 2020 so far. I mean, what we had January was cool. Like the first couple of weeks of February was cool. Then somebody somewhere ate a fucking bat and was like, it wasn't Ozzy. The world's going to end. Oh, shit.
Right. No doubt.
What do you mean?
Well, when Kobe Bryant died in January, I was like, wow, this year is off to a crazy start. And then in February, I can't remember what happened in February. It was murder hornets. It was something else. And I was like, oh my God, 2020 is kind of nuts. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and I'm like, okay, what the hell's going on in the world, man? But again, it's like I was at not a gas station. It was like a little market on the way up to the mountain after a hike the other day. I walk in, I was with a buddy, another coach who I actually met out here. And the gas station attendant was doing his whole thing. You could feel his energy though. He was like, whatever. And we're like, well, how are you doing today? He's like, well, about as good as you can be, man, considering there's a pandemic. And I could tell of his energy. And I was like, I'm not even going to dick with him today. Like, whatever, just that's cool. But my buddy, his good soul, man, he's like, well, it doesn't have to be like that. We have our own choices. And this guy was like, it's Saturday. This guy, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, does not care at all. But my buddy, God bless his soul, man. Like I said, he goes in with the whole like, oh, the pandemic's whatever you make it. But not to like make light of that, but really it truly is like, and I know that that, we get what we accept in life. And your external reality is a direct reflection of your internal thoughts and feelings. We talked about that with, thoughts become things. Like, not to get too far off, but, I'm like, none of this is real. Like, none of this is even real. It's literally like a video game simulation. Like, who are we? We're 50 trillion cells. You zoom in on us, we're not even here. We're like not even real. So like, what are we? And it's like, when the science of that kind of started to really trip me out, I'm like, you know what? Okay, I don't know what this game is, but every single day or whatever, it's just right now. It's not yesterday. It's not tomorrow. It's always just right now. And how right now can I always try to get the most out of it? And it's like, man, if people just slow down and start to ask more questions and learn more things and move through that fear, it's like, I'm telling you, listeners are people who are watching and haven't gotten started yet, or who have gotten started and stopped and wanting to get started again, man, like, let's go. 2020, the pandemic, anything in life is what you make it. I mean, it really, really, truly is. I didn't want to leave San Diego. Like, I didn't want to do all the things I did, but I had to unplug and opt out. And, I think that's what life is like, right? Taking ownership for everything in your life, accepting it for what it is and saying, you know what, I don't like it, but I'm going to make it better. And then find it within yourself. And I guess it's simpler for us to talk about because we understand it now. But damn, bro, it was a hard road to get here. Hard road to hoe.
Hey, I understand that, man. I really do, man. Especially, like I said, I've been trying to do all this with, raising 4 kids, being married, working a day job. Like, it's wow. You talk about a
Yeah.
ride like that. There's an old saying goes around, rode hard, put away wet. Like,
Yeah, I rode hard
I
and put away
feel
wet,
that.
man.
I feel that, man. Man, it's been an awesome pleasure having you here, man. Trying to
Thank you
wrap
so
things up
much,
now,
dude.
man. I know you got a busy day. I got a busy day ahead of me.
Yeah.
Man, I got one main staple question I like to ask everybody. What is the absolute best piece of advice that you could give somebody out there who is just stuck in a rut? They have no idea what they want to do, how they want to do
Yeah.
things. They just know that their current daily life is not making them happy, not bringing them any joy. It is not what they want to do forever. What's that one piece of advice you can give them to help them get started and get them on the path to what they want to be?
That's an excellent question. So I'm just going to share the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, because it's kind of the same thing, and I'm going to try to make it super compact. I was bartending at the time, 2016. I was I didn't have very much money. I was living in San Diego, and I bought a course online. It was November 23rd, 2016 at 11 o'clock. I bought a course for digital marketing to teach me how to run people's social media. And I started to have a little bit of success doing that, not much. Over the first 3 months, then I started making some videos online. One of the videos was a very emotional video. It was saw by my now mentor, Cole Hatter. This guy has a big, massive event in Las Vegas. Didn't know any of this at the time. So this guy sees my video, invites me to this entrepreneur event where like the biggest entrepreneur names, biggest influencers are speaking on this stage. And the ticket that he gave me, because he was so moved by my video, him and my girlfriend and I, we got these tickets to go to Vegas to this event. So anyways, we got backstage passes. We got to meet all the speakers. We had a private cocktail party, like all this crazy stuff. So it's Saturday night at this event. I'm just this dude who 3 months ago bought $1,000 course online. Like, who am I? And all of a sudden I find myself on a Saturday night, Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas, and I'm in a little tiny room, probably not much bigger than this little room I'm in right now at my cabin. And I was a glass room. I'm in there with Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, Bradley, 3 different billionaires. There's like athletes. And I'm jammed in this room, and everybody's talking, and they all know each other. And Cole's mastermind is in there. And like, I was so, my imposter syndrome was kicking so hard. I felt so unworthy that I remember I walked over to the table that was in the corner with all the food, Sean, and I just started eating. I was looking at the wall, and I was like, if I can just hide out here long enough, nobody will notice me. And then I started questioning myself. I was like, I should just leave. Fuck it, I should just leave. No, this is the best. This is the biggest opportunity you've ever had. No, I should just leave. And all of a sudden I feel some guy tap me on the shoulder who's a good friend of mine now. Didn't know him at the time. And I turn around, and he's like probably 10 years older than me. Nicest guy in the world. And he's like, yo, bro, like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I'm thinking about leaving, because I'm like a heart on your sleeve kind of guy. I'm like, I'm thinking about leaving. And he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. He goes, why are you thinking about leaving, man? And I go, well, Rich, I don't have anything to offer these people. These people, there's nothing I can give these people. Like, what am I supposed to go talk to them about? And he looked at me, and he looked around the room, and he goes, bro, he's like, there's nothing you can give these people that money can't buy. Put his hand on my shoulders and looked me in the eye, and he goes, but you know what you can give them? Friendship, generosity, honesty, humor. He's like, you've got to understand, Marshall, that your energy, how you choose to show up in the moment, that's what makes you valuable. That's what makes anybody valuable. Because yeah, they can go hang out with another billionaire and all their cars, but they don't ever feel anything. He's like, you got to look around this room and realize that these people don't feel anything. And so for anybody that's willing to get started, what I'm getting at is I want you guys to understand that, yeah, you may not have money, you may not have status, all these stupid ass dumb things that were programmed as that matter. None of that shit matters, because what I've discovered over the last 4 years, going from broke to making a lot of money doing what I love, telling stories, is that it's how you show up every single day. And if you choose in the moment to show up for yourself by getting better mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, if you continue to show up for yourself, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're not showing up for yourself in all areas of your life, then you're not going to be able to show up for yourself overall and for the people that we serve. And so it's like, if you show up with the energy, I promise you everything else will start to come into place. And when Rich told me that day, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense. And so now this kind of bubbly attitude, like, this is just me. Like, I love my life, and because I've worked really, really hard, I've tried to kill myself, right? Like all these crazy things. It's like, I just learned that literally choosing my energy is all up to me. And even when shitty situations happen, I have an opportunity to be like, you know what? That makes me suck. But you know what? I'm mad at you, but I'm not letting you rob my power. Not rob my power today, and then to shift it. So for anybody getting started, like I said, I can't ever tell a short story, but man, just choose you. Just choose to show up in a powerful way. And when you feel emotions that you don't like, change them. And if you don't know how to, Google it. Google, like just go to Google. How do I stop being so damn angry at my kids? And just start, man. Just ask questions. But that's it. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. That's excellent advice to everybody out there listening, man. I hope y'all got a lot out of that. Marshall, man, it's been a pleasure and an honor having you here, man. I'm glad to be connected to you and very grateful for having you as part of my life now, man. Man, I know you're going to be busy today.
Dude. I'm going to be coming out to Lyle sometime soon to have some Waffle House.
Hey, man, we got a Waffle House. I actually live in a place called Dixon now, and Waffle House is literally a stone's throw from my house right now.
Bro,
now whether they're open or not
is my shit. Except I don't think I've ever eaten it that drunk, and probably I think I've only eaten it between like midnight and 3 probably.
Wait, they're open at other times?
Oh yeah, actually you might be right. Hey bro, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for helping, Marshall, man. Everybody out there, I hope y'all have enjoyed this podcast. And if you've enjoyed it, if you've gotten something out of it, please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, an honest written review. That helps us get the algorithm of iTunes pumping us out to more ears and getting this message across to more people. And if you haven't done so yet, head over to, or actually just jump in the show notes. I'll leave a link, and you can check out my 7-day self-mastery jumpstart mini course boot camp. It's simple step-by-step actions you can take to begin mastering yourself today in all areas of your life. Y'all, that's it for us today. Have a great, excellent rest of the weekend. And I know we're coming up on, what is this? This is Labor Day weekend. Yeah, Labor Day weekend. So, guys, have an awesome weekend. Be safe out there. And we'll catch you next time right here on the Getting Started podcast.
Later, guys.